Hello, welcome to the video. Today we'll be discussing the three very important Excel tools that you must know if you want to be a good data analyst. Those tools are very important because you need them to structure your data. As you know that structured data is key in data analysis. You also use them to clean up your data. You use them to manipulate your data, and no matter how large your data is, you'll be able to handle them conveniently and swiftly. So the tools are table, Power Query, and pivot table. Now let's look at table. Table is one of the most important tools in Excel. Table helps you to structure your data. For example, the data I have here, it's not an actual table, it's not a real table, it's just table, it's just data that are arranged in rows and columns. But it's not in a table format. So the implication of this is if I apply a formula on this table or try to do any apply a function, it doesn't automatically spill down to all the data. But if I put it in a table format, whatever formula I apply just once spills down to all the data in the table. So let's see. So the quickest way to add a table to your data is by doing Control T. So if you have a data, you just click Control T and it's going to ask you if you want a header for your table. Of course, we want a header. You say OK. Now with your data in a table format, you can actually do a lot of manipulations. You can apply formulas and it works in all the rows and columns at once. For example, let's say you want to combine the first and the last name together. So we're going to use the Excel function text join. Text join does the same thing as concatenate or the ampersand. So you say equals text join, right? So you type apostrophe space apostrophe, put a comma, and you say you want to eliminate empty cells. You say true. You can just type true, or you type 1 instead of typing true. Just say 1. Then you put another comma. Then you pick the names, the first name and the last name, and you close and say yes. You see, we've been able to combine. You see, he applied it to all the rows at the same time. All the rows. I didn't need to drag, I didn't need to do anything. So even if you have hundreds of rows down your data, he applies the function at once to all of them. That's the beauty of table. So assuming if you want to put like add a column in between, so you can just say column and enter. You see, you have column in all of them, all the names. So you can actually manipulate, your data, all of them at once in a table. Table is a very, very powerful tool in Excel. Again, assuming I want to sum any of these years together, for example, if I want to sum the values of February 2024, so I'll just say equals sum. I'll just click on any of the uh, cell and do Control spacebar, and it selects all of them at the same time. I say enter. It gives me the sum, right? I can go there, change February to March, and click enter. It sums for March. So this is the beauty of table, using table. This is what table can do for you, right? So instead of doing control enter, control enter, you do it at once, right? Again, one thing we see in this formula is the name of the table, which in our case is table 3 before the name of the column, which is February 2024, right? So we cannot also change the name of this table. If you want to change the name of this table, what you do is you click anywhere on the table, then you go to design and you see table name. So we can change it to say student data. No space, you don't give space, right? So you enter. So if you come back to this, you're going to see that we have the name of the table before the column name, right? So you see data, it's table, it's really important. Table helps you to, structure your data in the best way possible. So quickly before we leave table, in the beginning I told you if you want to add table to your data that you just do Control T. Control T is not the only way to add table to your data, but that's one of the quickest ways or the quickest way. So other means to add the table to your data, it's by going to insert, and you're going to see table, right? If we didn't have table on this data, you would have seen, okay, you can see, you can add table from here. Then you can also add table by clicking on the table. If you go to conditional, around styles here, you're going to see format table as. So you can add table from here too. So these are the three methods of adding table to your data. So the first is Control T, second is through insert where you have the table, and the third is on the home page where you have format as table, right? All right. Next, Power Query. Power Query is an interesting tool of Excel. It's one of the best, if not the best tool in Excel. You might want to ask why Power Query. If you look at this data, you can see that our data are not really clean. You look at the first, for example, the first letters of the names are not capitalized. So Power Query can help you clean up your data, reorganize your data, and make your data very clean and come out beautiful. Power Query, it's really, really important and really, really very interesting. So to open up the Power Query, you click on the Data tab in your Excel. So you're going to see um, from table where you want to get your data from other sources. So you can connect to SQL Server and get your data. Power Query can connect to a lot of platforms, you know, just like you have here. So, but for the sake of our class, we are getting our data from this table. All right, to delve into Power Query, what you're going to do is to click the Data tab in your Excel, click the Data tab, and you're going to see from table or range, but mine is saying from table. So you click on it because you want to pick it from table. You can also pick from other sources, from web and other sources, depending on where you have your data from or the database where you kept your data. So we say from table. So just have your you can just have any of the cells selected and then click from table, and the Power Query dialog box will come up. So now we have our data or our table inside the Power Query. So we can manipulate and clean up this data as much as we want. To uppercase the first and the last names in our table, so we're going to select them, and when you selected them, you right click. No, I didn't select them well, so let's select them. You right click, and then we're going to see transform. So we want to capitalize each word, so click on capitalize each word. You see, the first names of each word have been capitalized, right? So one good thing about Power Query is that it gives you it documents the process. It's self-documenting, like we can see, it's a capitalized each word, right? So if you don't want it, you can delete it and the process returns to status quo, right? So this is the beauty of Power Query. Next, if you want to merge two columns, let's say you want to merge the first name and the last name. So again, you select the two columns and right click, and you're going to see merge columns. So click on merge column, right? It's going to ask you, do you need a separator? You can say space. Let's have a space between the two names, right? So what's the new name? What do you want to call it? So we'll say full name, right? Let's call it full name, right? And you say, okay, wonderful. It's merged the two names, right? So you see, we have full name. So again, you don't have to remember, any formula like text join or anything. You just do it, you know, at a go. That's the beauty of Power Query. So if you fear that you might have spaces anywhere in your data, you can select it and right click, and again you go to transform and say trim. So any spaces is going to remove it. If you say clean, it's going to remove any invisible data or any invisible stuff anywhere in your data. So let's say trim, right? So seems it didn't really do anything because we didn't have extra spaces. Now, one of the best features of Power Query is the unpivot function. For example, you look at our data, we'll have the date February 24, March 24. We want this data in a column and this one's in a column. So to do that, we select the name, full name and faculty, and we'll right click. And we're going to say on pivot other columns, right? You see, now we have, you know, the February, the date in it in a column. We'll have the values in a different column. See how beautiful our data is looking right now. So what we'll have is that we'll see that we'll have, three three rows for Phil Kers, three rows for Tyrone Oslo, three rows for John Hem, Tessie Chris, three rows, Emmy, three rows, like that. So well arranged data, right? Again, you can rename the heading of this date. Can call it date. You can call this maybe say course code, right? You know. So also see that every step we've taken are documented. You see them. Anyone you want to change, you remove, you can delete it. So this is so great, so great. Look at how clean and well organized and arranged your data is looking. You cannot do without the Power Query as a data analyst. Again, you can also rename the data. You can put say underscore cleaned so that we know that this is a cleaned data. So when you feel you're done with your data cleaning and transformation, you can come back to home here, still under the Power Query, and click on the drop down and say close and load because you want to load the data. Where do you want to put the data? So you have options. You can put it in a table, maybe in this existing worksheet that we are currently on, or to a new worksheet. So we're going to look at different options. First, let's load it to the table and on the existing worksheet, right? Right. So to ask you to select a table, a range. So we're going to select um, the range of where we want the data to be. So select um, around here. Also, okay, put the data here, right? So load the data. I'll see that I'll have the data here, right? So you can see how clean the data looks now. Now let's say I add something to my table. For example, I say, okay, May 2024, right? And just say maybe to just put random number, random number, random number, random number, right? So if I want this data to come to my clean data from the Power Query, what I'm just going to do is go to the Power Query, right click, and say refresh, right? You see, I have the May data in my Power Query table, clean and neat, right? Okay, now so let's go to pivot table. So assuming I have my initial table from Excel, and say I go to insert and I go to pivot table, right? So, and let's go to say a new worksheet. Let me do this in a new worksheet. Okay, just okay, right? So we have this. So you have the pivot table. So pivot table, it's also a beautiful table. In fact, it's a summarization table. So good, in summarization. So I want to move the name to say column, this to you can see how they are appearing here, right? So, but this is not how I want it. It's not giving me the arrangement I want. It's not, it's too manual, right? So, but assuming I close this, now if I come to the Power Query table, that is my clean data, and I click on it and click on design, I'm going to see summarize with pivot table. So click on summarize with pivot table, open in a new worksheet, and we have this. So you see, I can, it's easy to, clean up because it's not a structured data like our previous table. So now we can try to say, okay, let the faculty come here. You know, in using the pivot table, you're not destroying your data. It's a tool that helps you to slice and dice your data and how you want it, to understand your data, to look at it in different forms, right? So that's what it does. So you can see what we have here. It helps you to look at your data in different shapes, anyhow you want to look at it. So that's what the pivot table does for you. So this is what you can do with the pivot table. The pivot table helps you to slice your data, dice your data, summarize your data in every sense of it. So it's a very nice summarization tool for you in your Excel. So in this video, we talked about tables, how you can use your table to structure your data. Then we talked about the Power Query that cleans your data, gives you a very nice data. Then we talked about the pivot table that you can use to slice and dice your data. And we said for your structured data, which is your table data, you really don't have to, because of the form, the way it is, you really don't have to use pivot table on it. It's too manual. It's already structured. But for your data from the Power Query, you see how you can use the pivot table to really organize it, look at it in different forms, slice it, dice it, right? So this is the end of this video. I really want to thank you for staying tuned to this point. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube videos and turn on your notification button so that you see our coming videos. We'll be making a lot of videos going forward on data analysis on Excel, right? Subscribe and help us to grow. Thank you.